And boom, we're here. Hey, welcome to another special edition of the Rock Fantasy Files. We're actually doing this on an afternoon for a change. And John has actually put together this episode, and it's all about Swedish, old school Swedish death metal. Bands like Entombed and Dismember, Unleashed, Grave, and stuff like that. And I'm going to just hang out and chill and kind of let it all sink in. And I'm going to let John drive the tour bus today, I guess, if we're in a tour bus right now. So, John, welcome to the show, and let's have at it, man. Thanks, everybody, for joining us and giving us your time today. Thanks.
Yeah, we really appreciate everyone coming here, and definitely looking forward to hearing everyone's kind of point of view and ideas on stuff. But basically, before we start, let's just go around and you'll have everyone kind of introduce themselves and, give a little plug for whatever. So we'll start with Denise.
Yes. Hi, I'm Denise. I'm from Germany, so excuse my accent. And I think I'm here as the fangirl. We have a little YouTube channel called Heavy Metal Home TV, and we do festival movies and stuff for about 14 years now. We are actually working on a destruction movie, but it's on hold at the moment because of Corona. And I'm a booking agent for Redback promotion for Ohren, Ketzer, Disbelief, and Gaffer Diamond.
Awesome. Sounds cool. And then we got Albert here. Let's hear from you.
I'm Albert Mudrian. I'm the editor-in-chief and founder of Decibel Magazine and the author of Choosing Death in the Improbable History of Death Metal and Grindcore, which came out originally back in 2004, and around 2015 or 2016 was reissued as a revised edition through Bazillion Points, which is still has it today. Decibel, been running this 17 years. We're about 2 issues away from our 200th issue, which we're planning on having a lot of cool promotional stuff for. That is kind of the streaming side of things for us, since we can't really do live events right now, as everybody knows. So there's plenty keeping us busy at the moment.
Awesome. And I guess everyone here knows Steve, but still, Steve, you might as well give a plug for the store and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm Steve. This is my YouTube channel. It's called The Rock Fantasy Files. It's something we had started last summer when the pandemic started, because I actually launched a website for the store. I've owned a store in Middletown, New York, which is near New York City, for those watching from all around. In 1985, I based it on heavy metal for years. And of course, we branched out into being like a full service record shop, along with a smoke shop. And then we have like 35 pinball machines in the shop and a bunch of blacklight posters. I'm in what I call the bunker, which is at my house today. So rockfantasy.com, of course, Rock Fantasy Files on YouTube. And once again, I thank John for all the work he's put into this channel in the last few weeks. He was a guest, and we've been doing some panels like today on different bands over the last few months. And it's turned into something that's been a lot of fun, and it's helped my soul and helped a lot. And a lot of people really like it because it's getting them back into music, even though we can't really do much with it. They're seeing it and gathering with friends in bars or whatever right now. So this is a great way to communicate, and thank everybody for coming on today. Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Fred, you're up next.
All right. My name is Fred Estby, drummer for the Swedish death metal band Dismember. I used to be in a band called Carnage before that. Been around since this age, it feels like. Been a while, but still fun.
Hell yeah. Awesome. And Jonas?
Yeah, my name is Jonas Torndal, and I play bass and guitar, and not at the same time, obviously. But
that would really be awesome.
Of course. So I tried them both in a band called Grave from 1988 to 2008.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay, and then we got the legendary Anders.
Yeah, Anders Schultz. And
Yeah, I play drums in Unleashed since
Awesome.
1989, and also now in Unanimated since a few years back, doing some new stuff there as well. So keeping busy and still not getting too old for this shit.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, like again, I want to thank everybody for coming here, and I guess I'll just start it off to kind of, yeah, just might as well do it after that Man of War session. I got to tell you, I have a lot of balls now. You know, I feel more metal. So, anyway, um, yeah, to start off, I'll just want to say that the old school Swedish scene was definitely a just an amazing time for me. I mean, I was playing in Revenant at the time. It must have been, I don't know, approximately 88 or something. I think the first real contact I had with the Swedish death metal scene was, what's it? Nicky from Entombed. He used to do a fanzine called Chicken Shit, and he went to do an interview with Revenant for the time for his magazine. And, you know, we did a little back and forth. Then he sent me a copy of the Nihilist demos that he was doing. And I just remember being totally blown away by it. I mean, it just had totally that raw, it really reminded me of kind of like the Autopsy-ish kind of vibe to it, you know, but with its own original style to it. And then I was in contact. I can't remember if I was in contact with Anders or if it was, I mean, I know I was in contact with Johnny, but so many people started like writing to Revenant back then or back and forth that it was just insane. I mean, it was multiple members from Entombed or Nihilist at the time. And I think even with Fred from Dismember and like I said, I know some of the members of Unleashed contacted me, and even I think it was Olaf from Grave contacted me. I can't remember everybody that contacted me because I don't have the letters anymore, and it was just like a flood where we were just doing like massive trading demos and stuff like that. It just seemed like the Swedish scene was just so into getting the word out of the music, and they were, you know, totally into that whole just like trading demos for demos and stuff. And it was just a great vibe. I mean, I was into the tape trading scene before that, but definitely that was one of the highlights for me, was just hearing the evolution of all these bands. I mean, you know, I remember getting like the Putrefaction demo and getting, you know, early Grave demos and just, you know, Unleashed, all that stuff. It was just like, damn, you know, it's like how much great shit is coming out of, especially it was like Stockholm. I was like, what the fuck's in the water in Stockholm that like all these killer bands are gone? So it must have just been a fascinating time to be there and to be a part of, you know, that crazy evolution of music. I mean, as far as like, I mean, it's impossible for me to pick my favorite bands because there's demo era bands that, you know, I like a lot, and album kind of bands. But I mean, some of the ones that really, you know, hit me. I mean, the first Unleashed album when I heard, I think is a masterpiece. And Left Hand Path, you know, that was probably the first album that actually got released. And I remember going to Bleecker Bob's record store in New York, picking it up, and I was so proud. Like it was like, these are the dudes I know from, you know, Sweden to have a, you know, an album on Earache Records in the record store in New York. It just felt like, I don't know, like a triumph, you know, that like actually our era of music was starting to make an impact and stuff. So that was really important. And of course, you know, the Carnage album too. I mean, that just, you know, blew my mind. And of course, the Dismember. I mean, there's so many. I mean, the Grave, Into the Grave. I mean, it was just like ridiculous. It was just like bam, bam, bam with like killer albums. And, you know, there was a lot of bands that had a lot of similarities, but also most of the bands that were my favorite all still had like enough of their own originality to it to make it, you know, not just a carbon copy. I know at a certain point there started to become really a lot of bands that would just go with that, you know, Dismember or Entombed kind of sound and run with it. But early on, I do think there was a lot of big difference. I mean, especially when I heard what the third Grave demo, it was just like, I didn't know what the hell was going on, but it was like the heaviest thing I think I heard in my life, you know, and just hearing those vocals, it you know, it just sounded like, I don't know, monsters attacking you while you're listening to it. It's just really, really awesome. So I guess to start things off, I just want to know from, all you guys, like, what was going on? Like, how was the scene so good? I mean, was there, a lot of like, just a good metal scene in general there? Were there like bars or some kind of clubs or just parties and everyone just, got to know all this music? I mean, how, it was, I don't know, just tell me about this.
Well, maybe if I can start, maybe one of the problems that we had that weren't that, maybe actually contributed to this becoming what it was. And the problem was that we didn't have any venues. I mean, we were all underage. No one could drink. We weren't let in anywhere, and people in the music like scene, more or less, who had access to venues, they thought we were, just a nuisance. They thought we were like kids with a kind of angle, and they were not into what we were doing. A lot of people were patting us on our heads and telling us that you'll get over it. Just you'll understand, later. So we had to fight together to, come up with DIY shows and stuff like that. And also the fact that we didn't have anywhere really to go except for rehearsal spaces, which you could find a rehearsal space. That wasn't a problem at all. So you could rehearse a lot, but you weren't allowed to drink on the premises of the rehearsal spaces usually. So after you rehearse on a Friday, let's say, we would meet up at Central Station, and then we would try to find like a, parent-free haven in a house somewhere, so we could sit there and drink and listen to demos and talk to each other of who got the latest demo from the US. Or so, and to what you said before too, that I want to mention is that everybody was kind of, from Stockholm at least, were tape trading with you, John, which was kind of interesting, that you were kind of the main guy in the US that everybody knew and talked to.
It's just crazy. It just happened like coincidentally, but it was really just amazing to hear all this great music coming out. And it, for me, it just inspired me to, because I was really getting a little, I wanted to get heavier as a band with Revenant and stuff. So to hear just all these great, demos coming from that part of the world, it just really kind of, gave me some inspiration. Like, okay, these ideas I have of being heavier aren't totally insane, because at that time, like you said, a lot of people would look at you like you're crazy because what the hell are you doing? Like you're playing this crazy crap, extra brutal death metal thing or whatever. And, one day you'll grow up and become a real musician or something like that, and I guess I had the same kind of vibe where it was just, telling everyone to piss off. This is what I want to do. This is what I like. And it just seemed like you guys were very fortunate because you guys had a support of a lot of other people in your age group that were also kind of, thinking the same way, where, and in where I was from, it was a little bit more sparse. And it wasn't until I really met Immolation guys that I found some other guys that were really connected with that more underground style. I mean, of course, Henry from Revenant was into it too, but it was basically just like us and Revenant. And then once we met Immolations, when we kind of, okay, you're not the only people in New Jersey, New York area that like this forward thinking way of looking at extreme metal and stuff like that.
But it was also like because we were kind of outcasts.
Yes.
Because I knew almost nobody, because we were still kids, right? I mean, I was 14, 15, 16 and whatever, and like nobody in my school, or everybody in my school, thought I was an idiot. And because it was me and one guy, like this Grant from who then became in general surgery. Me and him went to school together, and we were the only two kids in school basically who liked this kind of music, and everybody hated us and thought we were idiots. So instead, you were around when you went to the record stores. You go to the record stores, and then you see some other guy with like a metal shirt, and you're like, "Hey, who are you?" And then you're like, "Hey, but yeah." So you become like friends with that guy, and then you meet somebody else, you become friends with that guy. So basically, I had no friends from school except for one guy. But then I met people from all over the city, which then we all met up, and then everybody kind of went together against everybody else. So with that kind of made a camaraderie as well. And then everybody's like, I want to fucking play too. Like, oh, you're in a band, I want to play. And then you start playing, because I didn't even play anything basically until I started playing, when I started hanging out with these guys or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking play the drums too, or, you know, I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
So then this is kind of how you built something, and then you're like, you met some guy from another suburb, and then it's like, hey, we should play together. And these, like, this is how things kind of started. People just started playing with each other and like starting bands and doing all this stuff. You know, like I didn't know any of the guys from Unleashed before I joined the band, because I met Johnny at a party. I got introduced by Grant actually, and I was like, because I knew who Johnny was because he was a nihilist. And he was like, I'm looking for a drummer. And then my buddy was like, Grant was like, I know a drummer, and I couldn't fucking hardly play. And he's like, I know a drummer. And Johnny's like, hey, can you play drums? I'm like, well, sure.
You try, right?
Yeah, but then he was like, okay, let me, you know, let's try it out. And then he went to my parents' house where I had a drum kit. And he was like, okay, play. And I'm like, yeah, and I fucking tried to play. And he's like, yeah, all right, let's try it. And then that's it. That's how it started, you know. So it's like all this stuff came from connections, because like basically if everybody had like went to school and hung out with the normal kids, you know, like nothing would have happened to this stuff. You just hung out and you met other people and you got the connections. Because I didn't know, like, I would never have met Fred or Jonas had it not been for this, you know, because we were from totally different places, but the music made us all come together, which is cool. And I wouldn't have met you because, you know, we went to saw you guys in the States.
Yeah.
Me and Johnny.
Yeah, you visited, was like 1990 or something.
Practice.
Oh, was it? So that was earlier than I mean, was that 89 when that happened? You came out, or
I think
90?
it was like 90. But yeah, we went to see Revenant practice. I remember that.
But what was it? Yeah, well, that's part of the reason why it's so important to support the record stores now, because it did have a huge part in all of our history back then, like a meeting place for people, and just you know, just a place to get new stuff. You know, I mean, I know as a kid I used to just go to record stores. We used to have like 3 record stores that we go to every week and just check for the new releases. So I just wanted to bring up, that's part of the reason why I'm extra passionate, besides just liking Steve from the Rock Fantasy. I think it's important to you know, record stores was an important meeting place for really almost all the generations of metal, maybe especially before the internet. It was like no other way to really meet people unless it was at a show or at the record store. You wouldn't really see them in your local neighborhood because there was only a few in each neighborhood.
Definitely, yeah. I feel the same way, John. It sounds almost, you know, what Anders was saying and they were talking about in Sweden was a lot like how we were over here.
Exactly.
You know, that's how we met. Our, you know, I'm not, you know, in school maybe in the 70s when I was a kid. Of course, people like rock more, but as the next generations, it was like that's the way it was in Middletown. It's like we're the only 2 metalheads. They'd come to my store. There's like 2 metalheads left in Middletown. So nowadays it's the same way.
Yeah. And did you want to add anything, Jonas?
Well, I could add that Grave didn't start in Stockholm. If you're not familiar with Grave, we're from Gotland, actually, which is an island in the Baltic Sea. It's about, in 1988, it was a 6-hour ferry ride to the mainland.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we grew up with 2 record stores. But they had a fairly decent selection of albums. Nice. So it was kind of okay, but we had to go to the mainland to see shows. We had to go to Stockholm to go to Heavy Sound and buy all the latest albums. And I guess that's where we met the other guys in Stockholm and at shows selling demos, and also through all the tape trading we did back in the days. You know, writing letters for real.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
with a stamp on, and you wrote them by hand and everything. So I guess we were fortunate that we had like 2 good record stores, and we had a rehearsal that was that we basically took over from all the other bands, and so like all you previous said before me is that we weren't that popular, you know, with the long hair and t-shirts, and so nobody liked the music. That they would say, that sounds like shit. You never gonna go anywhere. So, but then I think 4 years later, we toured the US and they were still playing in a garage somewhere. So,
Yeah.
so it was a kind of a nice revenge. And we moved to Stockholm, and I think it was in 90 or 91, because all the ferry rides, if we wanted to go somewhere, we see a band or record or anything, we had to take several days off just to get
crazy.
there.
6-hour ferry ride. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, now we're down to 3.5 something. So the boats are faster today, you know. Yeah. So, but then again, I'm 3 years older than the other guys in the band back then, so I could actually go out and drink beer, and I guess that's why they kept me in the band. I could go to
buy the beer,
buy beer, and I had a driver's license in the car and anything. So actually, it was from the beginning. It was just supposed to be just rehearse with them and see, till they found another bass player, but they just kept me. So that's weird.
Awesome
Yeah.
stories. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought someone said something. Okay. Next we can go to Albert here.
Okay. I'm just talking about Swedish death metal, right? Pretty much. Yeah. For me, it's going to be a little different because there's a little bit of a generational age gap. I'm only 45. So like for me, like when I was getting into this stuff, I didn't have the experience of tape trading demos and stuff because, I was like 14 and a lot of that stuff just hadn't made it into my world yet. So for me, like the first death metal I heard was via like college radio in the States. And then, from there, like, checking it out, taking a chance on it in a record store. So all of the first death metal records were the first death metal things that I heard, like Left Hand Path and, blanking here, like Sumerian Cry by Tiamat was like one of the first things I'd heard. Obviously like An Ever-Flowing Stream, things like that. So at being like 15, 16 years old at the time, you just had this group of friends, or I was fortunate enough to have a group of friends who were all similar age, and we were always trying to find that heavier thing, that almost like a one-upsmanship then. So we all had that core of records in like 1990 and 1991 that we were moving forward with. But then for me after that, like I wanted stuff that wasn't necessarily in the vein of like the traditional Swedish death metal. I was looking for stuff that was getting weirder. And I could remember like getting the first At the Gates album, Red in the Sky Is Ours, and just thinking that was the weirdest sounding album that I had heard by a death metal band to that point. And then it was only, and I loved it. It was like, I would just play it over and over and try to find things that were similar to that. And then it was only after, interviewing those guys years later that I learned that record was not supposed to sound like that at all, that was all just like a semi-disastrous experience for them. So one interesting thing, or a question at least that I have for the Swedes here is really like that whole early period of almost trial and error with recording. Obviously you guys, you had Thomas Skogsberg and Sunlight Studios to kind of fall back on as somewhere that you could get a quality recording, not have to worry about an engineer understanding what you were trying to accomplish, because back in the late 80s and early 90s, most engineers couldn't understand death metal, and if they even couldn't care less about it. So for you guys, like when when you would hear something like that at the Gates record, which was this oddity, did you guys think to yourselves, oh shit, thank God we stayed here with Skogsberg? Or were you like, wow, that turned out really weird, but it's kind of cool. Should we start thinking about maybe pushing this stuff in other directions?
I can start there. The first recordings we did as Grave, professional recordings for Centromedia, was in Germany. And they put us together with a producer. I think his name was Joe. I don't remember his last name. And that was a total disaster. And that's the recordings became the 7-inch, Tremendous Pain. And also some of the songs for a compilation. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry for that.
In the Eyes of Death, right?
I think so. I think so for the compilation. And that guy, he really wanted us to play with almost no distortion. So that was the worst experience we ever had. So it was kind of a relief to come to Sunlight, because everybody wanted to change our sound. They wanted to sound like this or sound like that, but we were pretty satisfied with the sound we had. I mean, all the demos, that's the way we wanted to sound. But everybody's we met after that wanted to clean us up in a way. So that's been a weird experience through all the years. But it worked fine with Thomas and Fred. You were there.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, you were there. So really liked recording at Thomas. But after I think the first 3 or 4 albums we recorded, 5 albums. After Back from the Grave, we recorded at Abyss with Peter and Tommy, actually. And that was also a really good experience, getting away from everything and just focus on recording 24/7. So that was really nice.
Yeah, well, I remember those early days of going into the studio and having the engineer like, what the hell are you like, just not even getting it, like. Yeah. And I remember we would just bring in some recordings of stuff, like we want to not exactly, but this is like where we're, looking at sounding like. And I remember one of them bringing in the Into the Grave album into the studio, and he just didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, he was just like, why do you want to sound like this? But, I'm like, well, we don't want to sound exactly, but this is just like the ballpark of like what we're talking, they were just looking at us like we're on Mars, so those early days of going into just the studio, they had no clue to what planet we were on as far as trying to get the sound. It actually probably helped a lot at Sunlight that Fred was working there too, to kind of tell them like, this is good or this is cool, because most studios you didn't have somebody that knew about metal, and if they did, they knew about like thrash metal, like they wanted to make you sound like Testament or something, instead of something totally unearthly,
At best, because I mean, dude, those demos we did before even getting to making albums, that was a trial by fire, and you were completely dismissed by the people working in studios.
Yeah, it was like condescending to you.
So condescending. And they were like, what's wrong with you? You're gonna grow out of this. You should try this instead. Have you heard Deep Purple? It's like, yes, we have heard Deep Purple. We know about all this. This is what we're doing. This is what we want to do, and this is what we're paying for. But once we came to Sunlight Studio, that another difference that Thomas made was that he was not shy to work late. You're very enthusiastic. You're 16, 17 years old. You want to work like 24 hours. You want to get everything out of the hard-earned money you put into your demo tape or album, whatever it is. And he was not shy to, drink coffee and record through the night, which was pretty cool too. He was never like, 6 hours and that's it. Like other people would be like, I've heard enough of this noise. It's been 6 hours. You paid already. Go home. Here's your stupid demo.
Yeah, please come home. Don't come back for a while.
Yeah,
exactly. Forever.
But this is the same. This is, of course, the same for us, because we decided early that we did not. Of course, nothing bad against it. We decided not to go with Sunlight because we wanted, like, okay, we want to do something our own sound, our own style or whatever. So we don't want to do this, which would of course been the easy choice too, because of the experience and all this stuff. But when we were going to do our first demo, we decided we're not going to do the sunlight because we want to sound different. So what do? Well, fuck it, we book a studio. So we book a studio, and the same thing as mentioned there. We get to the studio, and this guy is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" What? And he's like, he hated it. He hated it. And of course, we don't know how to engineer. We don't know how to do anything. You know,
you don't know how to explain what you're looking for.
Exactly that too. So we're trying to show him stuff to explain. And he just like, he's like, okay, he's like, sure, I'll do some of this, do some of that. And we made it. We tried to explain it, and the demo the first one especially, it turned out to be a brutal demo because it sounds bad, but it's a crazy sounding demo. But the guy, he refused to have his name on the cover. They're like, because he was like, okay, we do not mention my name when you put this out or whatever. That's like his, and he hated us. He was like, when we left, he was happy. He was like, oh, I'll drive your drums to your practice room and like just get the hell out of here, whatever. We were there for a weekend, and he hated every second of it. But yeah, it turned out cool in a way. It sounds crazy, but it worked. But no thanks to him, basically. But he said, do not put my name on this thing. I think we could put the name of the studio, but he wanted his name. Never.
But it's crazy though, because those old demos, even though the productions weren't good, I mean, they're demos, so they don't have to be good, but they have a personality. The personality still comes through, and like the heart comes through on it, and that's what I really liked about hearing all that stuff is, you really just, the passion in those recordings is just, kind of almost unmatched, really. Even though, the production aspect of it was, difficult to say the least, because like I said, you go in the studio nobody knew what the hell, you guys were doing back then. There was nothing to really judge it against. And they just look at you like you're a freaking moron. Like, what the hell are you doing here? So yeah, I totally agree. Okay. Well, I guess we can go to Denise here.
Yes, I'm 39. So when I came in touch with heavy metal, what was in school, records of all your guys were released already. So there were some metal guys at school, a few years, 3 to 4 years older than me. And I was the little one. They were the cool guys, and I was the little one they could teach. And I didn't have the evolution from Iron Maiden, Deep Purple, and that stuff. I started really with the hard shit, Unleashed, Brave, Dismember. They were there already, and Morbid Angel, Hypocrisy, D-Side, all that stuff. And it was too early for me. I had to learn to listen to stuff like that. So I had to recover from you guys and take a step back and do the Deep Purple thing back to death metal. It took time. It was too heavy for me to begin. I listened to that because I had this metal squad, but to really enjoy it, it took me a few years.
Well, that's normal, I think. I mean, death metal in general isn't really for the novice metal listener. You kind of grow into it, at a certain point. So I think that's totally a common journey for people.
I would have a question for Anders, my first question, because I think Unleashed is the most consistent band in regard to the lineup. How do you run a band like Unleashed for so long without any breakups and beef and stuff? How do you do it? What would be your advice to younger bands?
Yeah, I could use that advice too.
Anybody.
Yeah, but we've had a few lineup changes. We had the demo. I guess the first demo was there was Robert from Dismember was singing on that, but since we started recording the albums, we've changed one member, I think in '97 we changed out one Frederick for another Frederick, and they both look kind of similar. So of course a lot of people kind of missed that whole thing. But still, yeah, changing one member from I guess when we solidified the first lineup properly in 1990, I guess it was. I mean, I don't know, that most bands haven't really managed to do that, I guess.
Yes.
But I don't know how. I mean, we get along, and I think we usually say, like, we've always had the same goal, and I think it helped because we said this from day one. We said, okay, we started this band. We're gonna play death metal. We're gonna play this kind of music, and if you want to do something else, then you have to leave, basically. So I mean, if you want to play something else, or like experiment with other things or whatever like this, then you can do this in another band. But the goal it's always been a common goal, because I think a lot of times if you have a band and then one of the guys like, you know what, I kind of like this kind of music more, I want to like experiment a bit, maybe we want to bring some of this into the mix or whatever, and then you're gonna have problems if not everybody is, this is, I think a lot of bands split up or lose members because of this, because people want to do something else. They want to maybe experiment with something, and then I don't know, this I think could be a reason. But we always said from day one, this is what we're going to do. And since we all know this, and like I said, you're free to go play in some other band if you want to experiment with something else, but we're going to be this is what we are, this is what we do. Of course we need to we need to grow within what we do and stuff. We're not going to play exactly the same stuff, but we need to, of course you need to make your music, but within what we do, we're going to always do this. This is the only reason I can think of. And then plus we get along very well as well. We have fun still, more now actually than we used to. We used to fight a lot when we were younger. It was always on the tours and stuff. There was a lot of fighting and stuff like this, but nowadays you get older and stuff, so now we actually have a lot of fun. And I think and there's no egos that want to do like, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, this is when we do this, we do this. And so I think maybe that could be one of the things, I guess.
So you had the same evolution together.
Yeah, I mean you always have to evolve within what you do, of course, but we evolve within what we do, but we don't branch out too much. I mean, you have to hear that this is what we do, and I think maybe that's something to do with it. If you have the same goal, then you will stick together in a way.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Unleashed has been pretty consistent throughout the year, especially the later material. I think is really great. You can tell there's a progression to it, but it also still holds true to that, original DNA, which I think is important to secure your own, just your own sound. It. I mean, Unleashed is one of those bands you just hear and it's Unleashed. I mean, there's not many bands that even really copy that sound in a worthwhile way, in my opinion. So
yeah, definitely. The last couple Unleashed albums I immensely enjoyed, John and Anders. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Anything else, Denise?
I would like to hear something about the Masters of Death tour, how you came along, and maybe some tour stories we don't know yet.
Oof. Oh, yeah. That was a really fun tour. I mean, one of the funniest tours I have ever been on, and I've been on a lot with the band and outside working for other bands. Well, there were some small issues though, because the booking agent had some problems financially that we didn't know about. So that kind of put a lot of, a lot of problems were put upon us as soon as we got on that tour. So we played a few shows that were not well attended and so on. So that was less fun. But apart from that, I mean, I don't think I've been laughing so much for those as I've done during those weeks, because, sharing bus and stage with people you've known since the late 80s, and you've grown up together and being connected through the music and the kind of like rebellionship or whatever you want to say of being kids, you know, outside of society, sort of, and then being in your mid-30s and playing really great shows together. I mean, that was it was a tour memory of life.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely, I think, the most fun tour ever.
Yeah, you spend most of your time in our bus, Anders.
I did.
I think that's a habit of Anders, though. Anders, what was it? We did when the tour we did with you guys too. You were like on our bus most of the time, and when you left, I even remember the one night you just face planted yourself right out the door.
Yeah, I kind of wrecked your bus there for a while too, I think. Yeah. Gotta have fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But any other cool stories about that tour? I mean, that's a pretty awesome tour for any old school Swedish death metal fans.
I mean, everybody got along so well, and so I guess there's not really any good stories from the tour. So everybody got older and drank responsibly, I guess.
more or less.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, so we got along so well and had a really good time together. And some of the shows were good, and I mean, some of the places they booked that they were terrible, in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, it was a janitor and his dog attending. I think shows. So that was horrible. But I think all in all, it was a good tour. But again, the booking agency didn't do their job at all.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, but it was really funny going out with your friends and having a good time.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's totally killer. Okay.
Maybe some insiders can write in the comments below the video about that tour.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we'll go to Steve. You have any questions for our panel or any favorite albums or bands?
Yeah, I mean, of course, my store opened in '85, and I probably wasn't into the death metal as much as I was the thrash and some of the traditional bands at first. Like, I guess, like John said, it took me a little while to get into the death metal, but I certainly remember more listening to Grave in that time period. And Grave actually, of course, Entomb, Left Hand Path, and Dismember, of course, we listened to too. But I just remember really being into Grave in the early days. And Grave actually played in Middletown, New York, and I was trying to jog my memory, and I should have reached out to a friend this morning and to see who they were on tour with. But they played a place called Sportland, USA. It was a mid '90s, early '90s, I guess it was. It was off the Solus tour. And
we were on that tour. It was us.
So you were there too, then?
It was Grave, us, and Fear of God. It was Ola, Jorgen, and was it Jensen? The drummer. Yeah. It was that.
It was a great fun night. I mean, it was this Sportland USA was like this Dave and Buster's kind of place at the time before they had stuff like
an arcade or something.
And they started doing metal shows. As a lot of venues do. First of all, we're not going to do any metal, or we're not doing any hardcore. And before you knew it, like Biohazard was playing there, and then they started doing some death metal and stuff like that. So I guess that was my my moment was us having them come to town, and you guys, of course, probably we may have some pictures from the store somewhere from that day. I'm sure some of you guys dropped by.
That actually reminds me of a story on that tour. We were in Savannah, Georgia, and we were playing to some it was like a Harley bike shop or something we were playing at, and I just remember I was hanging out with Jorgen. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. I just remember standing next to him, and some girls come up to him, all like kind of in awe of him, like, "Oh, you're Swedish," getting all really, fangirly. And it was just so funny because she asked him, "Do they have schools in Sweden?"
School.
And Jorgen came back and he said it was a perfect way to come back. He's like, "No, we're just born handsome and smart." You know, it was just insane. I just couldn't believe that that comment that she made. But you know, it's like a lot of people, you know, I guess they don't have a good education or something if they think that.
I was going to say the answer is they obviously don't have them here.
But I just was a really funny story from that tour, which it just blew my mind when she said that.
No, European countries do not have schools. No. What the hell? You know, just to finish my end up, I mean, of course, Unleashed, I've been listening to for years also. And like you said, what a great long career. And I mean, The Hunt for White Christ, I thought was in my top, I think my top 10 albums for that year. And so, you know, you guys are still putting out such great records. And I love the whole, you know, the Viking style and all that stuff that kind of goes along with it. I saw you guys at the Chance Theater several years ago, and I still have a picture of with some of the guys in the band, I believe Tommy. So
yeah, actually Unleashed was probably one of the first kind of Viking bands in extreme metal, I think, or at least close to the first, you know. And then
Any Manowar.
Yeah, I guess Manowar. Okay, you're behind Manowar. That's okay.
You know,
I mean, Bathory were of course earlier, whatever, but I mean, you can't really call them death metal in a way. So I reckon we probably for being death metal, I think we maybe be the first. Could be, as far as I know, whatever. If you want to separate those two styles, I mean, Bathory, but you know, but more or less within this kind of, because everybody was doing a very different kind of thing, and we decided again we wanted to be a bit different. We didn't start like the first demos and stuff. It wasn't, the Viking thing didn't come in until like around the first album or after the first album, I think, because we just figured it was a way we wanted to go, you know, to solidify that, you know, because it's a good subject which nobody was doing basically, so we wanted to do that, and because it's, you know, it's something close to heart as well, you know.
Because you're Vikings at heart, right?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
Yeah, just in general, I'm such a big fan of Swedish death metal, and I also love, you know, the Gothenburg sound and dark. Because I wasn't quite sure when we were setting up for the episode with John, I was starting to do research on it all, and he's like, "Oh, just the early stuff." Well, okay, but you know, I just wanted to mention that any of our viewers, you know, of course, I loved like the early Catatonia and Opeth records, and I got Marduk's not really death metal, but I'm always been a big Marduk fan, and I like the stuff like Dark Tranquility and Bloodbath and stuff like that too. But just love all the Swedish metal and melodic and the regular death metal. So thanks to you guys. It's an honor to be in the same room with a lot of you guys today.
Cool. Oh, well, I guess we'll go to Fred and just tell us, you know, something, either some great moments or maybe if there's some bands that might have really influenced you, especially like Swedish type bands. Would be awesome to hear kind of, you know, the stuff that kind of inspired you or just meant something to you. And that, you know, basically that would be for the rest of you Swedes. You know, you don't have to say your best Swedish bands or nothing, just something that influenced you or whatnot, you know?
From back then?
Yeah, like put yourself in the, you know, what, 88 or something like that, or 89. And, you know, think of like that perspective, you know, Fred, what was going on in that brain.
Yeah, let's go back then in time. I mean, around 88, we had like one main record store called Heavy Sound that we all circulated around that place. They had like imported albums. They would sell your demos. They would sell your fanzines. You could put notes up for, you know, looking for band members and stuff like that. But I would say, you know, Bathory was, of course, a huge, you know, kind of like influence, and also like something that was very mysterious coming from your own country, but making albums and being really mysterious, not doing many interviews, not showing up, not playing real shows really. That was kind of, I think that was really intriguing to most of us. But also, you know, I mean, bands from the US like Autopsy. Sorry, someone tried to call here. Autopsy, you know, American bands like Executioner, and you know, those bands were big influences on us too. Death, you know, that album changed a lot, and so did Rain and Blood, I feel like. But you know, when it came to Swedish bands, yeah, there were a few. Morbid, of course, that was a big, you know, turning point, I feel too, because that then, apart from Bathory, you could actually walk up to the guys in Morbid after they played a show and be like, hey, how you doing, can I buy your demo, you know? And still they were recording demos, and they had some kind of a draw, you know, when they played a show in Stockholm, which was really cool.
Awesome, cool. Okay, we'll go with Jonas.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm a few years older than the rest of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Johnny is actually the same age though in Unleashed, but apart from the guys in Grave, and I spent a few years in Stockholm before I got back to Gotland and joined Grave. So I get to hang out with the guys and watch a lot of shows with the Maninja Blade, if you know them.
Oh, Manila, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
a huge influence, and also the guys in Candlemass.
Yes.
So
That's one
those
of the
guys
greats.
and those bands were really huge influences for me regarding metal in that period, and also among the Swedish bands, and a few thrash bands, Agony, and there were a few other demo bands, and Hexenhaus, I think, that became later, and a lot of thrash bands and doom bands in that period of time. And like Fred said, most of the death metal influences came from the US, I guess. And also Carcass, I have to mention them as well. Really love them. And all the other heavy bands.
Well, I think early Grave and even the Carnage stuff had a little bit of that Carcass influence on it too, I think, especially the first Carnage demo. Was it the I can't remember. Death. What was it?
The Day Man Lost.
Yeah, Day Man Lost. That was it. It wasn't exactly like Carcass, but it had that total grunge gurgle to it. You know, it was really killer. I remember hearing that, just being like, "What the fuck is that?" You know, but it was awesome. And the same thing I think with the Graves, especially the third demo, I think had a little bit of a Carcass influence on there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, hugely influenced by Carcass, to be honest. But also Autopsy and Death, like Fred mentioned, huge influence. Morbid Angel as well.
Yeah,
and can't really think of which other bands. And we also met a lot of bands. You know, in the early days, had to mention a German band, Lemmy Project. Saw them got the tape actually at the Pungent Stench show. So I had to mention Pungent Stench also. Really, also.
Yeah, Pungent Stench was a big influence back then, for sure, for us too.
But they had the groove in a way. I always liked the riffs and the groove in the music. So
yeah, that split they did, that 7-inch and split they did were so good. The split with a Disharmonic Orchestra, that was great. Oh, that was so good. That was so good when that came out.
Yeah, good music, and like I said, I like the groove in those bands. I mean, the American bands, when our first tour we did was with Malevolent Creation, and it's like really fast, really clinical,
yes,
and really good. So started to enjoy that kind of music more after going out on the road and seeing more bands and enjoying more of that kind of music, death metal kind of death metal. So I guess I was more into the European bands first, and I think everybody in Grave at that time also loved the Celtic Frost, Destruction. Like Jensar, the drummer, he was all like which bands are you into? And he always answered Old Destruction.
Yeah, that's classic stuff. That really is. Especially that Essen, Germany, old threat, like Creator, Sodom, Destruction. Oh, that was groundbreaking too. That was definitely influence, I think, on everybody that played death metal or extreme metal at that time.
Yeah,
that's cool. Okay, we can go to Anders now.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, like a lot of stuff has already been said, of course, but yeah, I mean, first, you start out when you're a kid to get to the extreme stuff. It's like Slayer and stuff, kind of bridged it, and then you went to the record store and you like the early Death and Morbid Angel. Like when I got to know Johnny is when I got into these demos and stuff. That's when you heard the Morbid Angel Autopsy stuff, that did it for me more or less. But then Sadus, you have to remember, Sadus is it's like one of the best and the biggest, I think. And also that kind of vein, Merciless from Sweden is also a favorite, was also influential for me at the time, even if it was almost at the same time. But it was that kind of fast thrashy stuff was also fantastic. But then everybody, Bathory, all the German, the Destruction, Sodom and stuff, and then but it's I think we all kind of share pretty much the same, because we were kind of almost, except for old man Jonas, we were almost the same age, and I guess everybody kind of found everything at the same time, more or less, because everybody was just trading it. So I would think it's safe to say that all of our, it would all be the same stuff, basically. We all like the same stuff, and we all got influenced by the same things, more or less, give or take a few things. But I think our music history at that time would be almost exactly the same.
Do you still watch the scene like that? Are there any new bands you would recommend?
I really like a few bands, but they're on the slower side. And one band that stood out for me the last few years is a band called Hooded Menace, a Finnish doom death metal band, which I really enjoy. They're really, really, really good. Okay. So I really recommend them. And also you have the Swedish Leak. I'm wearing this shirt, old school.
Oh yeah, I heard of them.
Old school have death metal, and they're really good. I've seen them live a couple of times, and they kick ass. Really like them.
Yeah, they kind of carry that old school torch.
Yeah, they do.
I think as a newer band, which has to be really cool for you guys to see that there's still bands coming. I mean, there's really bands coming out all over the world that are really influenced by those, especially your early recordings for all three of your bands, and must be really cool to see that it's being appreciated more now than it probably has in quite some time. I noticed that with just death metal in general, but I hear a lot of bands that have that kind of more, I don't know, it sounds kind of cheesy to say, but almost like that more groovier sound of the Swedish death metal vibe, It's just like, I don't know, groovy is not really the right word for it, but it's just not like you're saying, like how Malevolent Creation is, was more just technically straight, it's brutal and killer, but it doesn't have the, there was like more of almost like a punk or a rock vibe in like the drum playing to a lot of that. A lot of
actually true. I forgot to mention that as well. The punk thing was very influential on me and Johnny as well when we started, because we were both heavily into punk and hardcore. Also, like on this, side by side to the metal, we were always very much into punk and hardcore also, which I think maybe shown a bit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in our generation do have that crossover, because at the time, it wasn't really just like a death metal scene. I mean, it was just like extreme music, and a lot of people that really, punk and hardcore and, thrash metal and death metal were all kind of just extreme music at that time, more than it was segregated as it is now. Everything seems to be put more in a box now. Back then it was just like, it was, I don't know, it's had more of a, as long as it was pissed off, I was pretty happy with it,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So. But I think also what Anders says, and you too, John, is that what was really important with like the punk scene and the extreme metal scene at the time was that it was a lot of DIY spaces, right? Mm-hmm. Or a lot, but the few that were, you could play with your death metal band, but you would share a stage with punk bands or hardcore bands.
Yeah.
And not only did we also listen to hardcore and had this whole crossover thing, but you also met those people. You hung out with those people. Yeah. We didn't really hang out with older, heavy metal dudes who were into only Priest or Sabbath or even Slayer. If you went to a Slayer show in Stockholm, more than half of the audience were like old farts, according to us. And they would go home you know, or go to a bar, which we couldn't go to, and we didn't really have a connection with them. But the punk people and the hardcore people, we had a different connection with.
Yeah, it's true. I think that there was a more of a divide in the scene for metal, and then like everything kind of being a little more extreme at that time. I think it's different now, but back then it was definitely, I mean, I liked metal still at that time, but you know, there was a lot of people in the regular heavy metal scene that just didn't, you know, just were not interested in having anything pushed any faster or any heavier, you know. You put on something like an Autopsy demo back then, and they just be like, oh, this sounds horrible, you know. They rather listen to Fate's Warning or something, you know, which you know, is fine on its own, but a lot of the metal people just weren't on the same page, you know.
I think that's a generational thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, even now, even I kind of experience it a little bit when, you know, with Decibel, when we get these younger bands playing a style of music that is, I don't know. When I listen to them, like, I can't identify with it. I think that for older school heavy metal fans, when death metal was coming up in the late 80s and early 90s, for them, it was just like, they didn't get it. They weren't trying to get it. It wasn't for them. You know, it wasn't out of their generation. So I think that just kind of continues on and on. That's kind of the cyclical thing. But the thing that's kind of nice now, I think, for younger generations coming in, is they're able to just kind of take all of it. And I see a lot more of that now, certainly, than I did growing up, because when I was growing up, I didn't really want to listen to, like, after I discovered death metal, I didn't want to go back and listen to Iron Maiden and Metallica. You know what I mean? I wanted to just keep going further and further down the rabbit hole of extreme music. Whereas now, a lot of it probably has to do with just the reach of the internet, and everything is available for anybody of any age to check out at any time. I think that, like, it's just open more. You know what I mean? Kids aren't into, when you ask them, are you into metal in 2021, they can say yes, and they can be into like some crappy deathcore band or some black metal band or some traditional heavy or Iron Maiden. It can be all over the place. Yeah. Whereas I think when I was growing up, you know, when somebody would ask me, like, oh, are you in heavy metal? My first answer would be, well, what kind of heavy metal are we talking about? You know, and I don't think you see that as much now. So it's kind of good overall, really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I definitely could agree with that. And I mean, there's a different perspective, I think, for bands now too, that are doing, especially ones that are kind of revisiting the older style, because I mean, I'm not I figure I could probably speak for all you guys, is we were kind of pushing metal forward to the area we wanted it to be at. Like, it was looking into the future, but respecting your past kind of thing. And now a lot of bands are, you know, really pulling from the past and just trying to almost relive the past in some way, or maybe doing it in a slightly modern way. But there was a lot more area for us to move forward in at that time, because everything wasn't done either, you know. And I think it's good, because at least in my perception, a lot of the demos I was getting, you know, especially from Sweden, but just from everywhere, every band wasn't progressing in the same exact way. It wasn't like a group effort. Everyone, you know, since there was just more tape trading, and it matters what you heard and what kind of inspired you to kind of where you went with the, you know, with the music and stuff like that. That's why I loved tape trading back then, because I felt like I was able to really understand more about, you know, metal in general, and it kind of helped me focus myself. Okay, you know, I might have this vision that I don't know how to kind of put together, but then I start hearing stuff like, I don't know, the Carnage demo, or I don't know, Carbonized demo or whatever, and oh, this is pretty interesting, cool stuff, and let's you know, kind of give you that inspiration to move on a little bit. At least that's my perception, you know.
Yeah, I think in the mid 80s, you always look for something faster, heavier, more brutal.
Yes.
And you realize that, well, I had to pick up an instrument myself and find some like-minded people.
Yeah.
So I think that was the progression for us. I mean, you wanted to do something heavier, you know, and
Yeah.
faster and more brutal, and the vocals and everything. And then you heard other bands, and well, we're not alone. Let's keep going.
Yeah. It was really an interesting time. I mean, I just remember the amount of mail I did. The people at my post office knew me by my, name. They expected me there every single day, and I'd be getting like piles of mail at my house. My parents were just like, "What the hell's going on?" Like everybody in the world's writing to you. I get people from Sweden, then you get like someone from Malaysia, somebody from Germany, someone from wherever, Russia or something, or Bulgaria. It just was totally insane. It was a great time to be into metal. I mean, it's great to have the resource of the internet, but there was just something special about having to really do the homework and read the fanzines and really work at it. I think it made you appreciate some of the different demos and music you were listening to too, because you wait like a month to get a demo, and it really be a bummer if you got it and it sucked. After waiting that long.
Well, yeah, you have to focus too. I mean, if you, well, yeah, like you said, you waited for a demo, or like you saved up money to go buy that record that you wanted, whatever, and then it's like if it kind of sucked, you're like, well, maybe, well,
give it a
I'll
few more
listen to it
listens.
again. Maybe it doesn't suck. I'll listen to it again, and you kind of like because nowadays, I mean, one of the negative things I think about that everything's available. You can you give it a spin, you're like, yeah, it wasn't too good, so screw it, But
yeah.
whereas back then you had to focus on it, and like stuff that you would have maybe passed on after one listen, but since you bought that thing or you got it sent to you, you had to focus on it, and then it grows on you, whatever. So there's a lot of stuff that nowadays you just discard because it's it doesn't sound so good, but maybe you're missing something because if you gave it the time and the focus, you would like it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, some of the most important death metal releases ever, or like thrash releases, even like Possess Seven Churches. Like when I first got it, I didn't get it the first time I listened to it. Like, exactly. I don't know what I would do now. Like if I heard it on the internet, I might just pass it up because it just sounds like noise. And that ended up being like one of my most important albums, even like Voivod, War and Pain or something like that. I mean, when you first hear it, you're just like, what the hell's going on here? It's like, but since I paid for it, I listened to it a bunch of times, and then you hear it and you're just like, once you get it, and you're like, wow, this is a masterpiece,
Yeah, so you lose something when you don't, if you just have the availability, so you can just pick and choose and not really give a focus on it. So I think that's actually something that I don't know was better in a way in those times, because you really had to focus on things.
Yeah, I mean, there's positive and negatives to everything, so it's really difficult to say, but I guess we should try to get some like just final comments or questions from everybody, so we can not have this go on forever, because I could talk about metal forever. But I guess we could start with Albert again, if he has any last questions or just any general closing statements to bring up or anything. I mean, you work for a magazine, you have to have questions.
Me?
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, but I've done it for so long. There's no more questions left. No, I mean, for me, the thing that's been interesting as a fan growing up with this and then having a job that essentially revolves around it too, is just the kind of the path that the old school death metal bands have taken in terms of their perception. And it's like, when I got into death metal in like 1990, 1991, these bands were huge in my mind. And then by like, kind of that mid 90s to late 90s period where you had that, where the scene kind of drops off a bit in popularity or from a commercial standpoint, to its, I don't want to say rebirth, but like how it's kind of like swung back around, I would say really in the last 10 to 15 years, where people think of Dismember and Grave and Unleashed and Entombed as like just classic bands. Now there's a certain status that all the bands have, and Incantation has it too, really. So like this, like, how do you guys feel about this? Because it's like you're kind of, you're a little bit tethered to your past. People have these expectations of what you're supposed to be, what they want, what they think they want you to do at this point. But like, is it a little bit weird for you now? Like, do you have moments where you're just like, where the fuck were all you people in like 2004 when we were playing to like, 150 people a night, and now we're getting these offers to play these events halfway around the world for more money than we may have got on an entire tour 15 years ago? Like, is that kind of a weird thing for you guys to process, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so. And I agree with that. Like around those years, you said like between 2000 and, the death metal scene was kind of not, the shows weren't well attended for us anyways, in the late 90s. And, black metal had a really big like following, and people didn't care that much for us anyway. And the same with like bands like Korn, and, that whole metalcore thing was big, and rap metal even. Everything kind of started to branch off a lot very fast. But then again, it felt like there was some kind of a resurgence in the early 2000s, but that felt more like people were maybe, just there was a new generation, but it was kind of like, a little bit weaker when it came to attendance to shows. So I remember thinking that like, oh, everybody's talking about they want to see these old school bands again, but they're not coming to the shows anyway. And we toured pretty hard back then. We really tried to make it work. But so I was feeling a little bit, a little bit iffy about it. But then, came 2006 when we did the Mass of Death tour. Then it was different already. So it was coming back stronger, very slowly, but it was coming back. And then today, if I look back at, or if we all look back at music in general, everything goes in cycles, right? And the thing now that I think is so cool though is that it seems like there's not just one new generation being into extreme music, it's several new generations, and they are, like you said, Albert, like very, very open and not very dismissive of who's listening to what within metal, which I think for the most part is a really good thing.
Yeah, I have to say, what was that? Did you play? Was it Killtown or what? Or no, it was one of the Metal Fest. You did like Swedish Metal Fest or something recently. It was so damn cool on people singing the Override to Overture for you guys at that show. And I heard that, I was just like, wow, fucking metal is really back. The old school fucking people really, really appreciate it. It was just, I don't know, it was a beautiful thing to hear that, just how into it, the younger generation is to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was skeptical, and I think we all were in the band when we were going to get back together. We were like, for a couple of years there, we were like, is this just talk again, or is this really, like, are people really interested in old farts like us playing again? Mm-hmm. But I think bands like the newer generation of old school death metal kind of showed us that they're doing good. So, and their fans kind of want to see the old farts too. So, hey, why not?
Awesome. Anybody else have to comment on that? Okay, no, it's cool. I just want to make sure,
Yeah, it's, I don't know. We just kept going. And we just didn't look back. We just kept going. Yeah, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, whatever. But it's not, I don't know, it's not something to focus on. Yeah. You do what you do, and then if people come out and check it out, it's great. Yeah. Of course, if it grows, it's even better, of course, because you want to get your stuff out there. But it's, I don't know, it's always been going forward, so it doesn't, I don't know, we've never thought about this. It's like, okay, we go, then we go, and then we'll see what happens. And then yes, at some point, if nobody wants to hear it anymore, then I guess then we'll give up. But I don't know, I never looked too much into deeper thought about this kind of stuff. It's just like, fuck it, we're going, and we keep going.
I could agree with that
until it's done. You're the same, I know you, John. It's like,
yeah, kind of stubborn. Yeah, stubborn bastard. Just want to do it, and if people don't like it, they could piss off.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's the only thing I would have a question for anyone is what's going on in their current projects and any new work being done in any of the or mention bands or that we have on, and Unleashed, or I mean, everybody's in lull right now because we can't do shows or tour. But is there any new music coming out from any of the artists we have on today?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, we Unleashed we're gonna start recording a new one, I guess sometime this year, probably in the spring. Material is done more or less, so we're gonna just go in the studio, I guess, probably in the spring around then, and then when the release will be, I'm not sure. Maybe it's end of the year, probably maybe beginning of next year. I don't know. And also at the moment we're doing an animated album, which we're working on at the moment. We're actually in the studio for this, and this should be released in probably in the fall or winter of this year. So that's also, yeah, but that's, keeping busy because you can't do anything else. So recording is a good idea. Writing stuff and recording is what to do.
Yeah, thank you.
What about you guys? Yeah.
Yeah, for Dismember's sake, we're working right now on getting the old, all the back catalog out again. It's been a struggle when it comes to licenses and everything. So we've been working very slowly on taking all the content down. We have to make sure the old licenses are, honored by the previous labels, and then we're gonna hopefully before the summer get all the albums back out again. We've been talking about writing new material too, so we'll see what happens this year.
Cool.
And Jonas?
I guess I'll pass on this one. This
Oh,
one not in the band.
are you doing any kind of music projects now, or not really?
Yeah, I've been doing some projects, but the problem for me is, to be frank, everybody wants, not everybody, but the bands or the projects I've been playing with would like the bass player from Grave to play their songs, and kind of that doesn't work for me though. So I kind of like more slower, heavier music today, I guess. Yeah. And so I'm always on the lookout, and probably have to start something myself to get things going.
So, yeah, you don't want to just do Grave Part 2.
No, well, I could do Grave Part 2, but it's not going to be the same anyway. So I still go to shows. I mean, I still I think the last project I was in was like a year ago or something. Very fast, Morbid Angel Slayer, like something mixed in between there, but the rehearsal room was like an hour from Stockholm, and it kind of didn't work out. So but I still have my guitars and basses, and so yeah. I got my amps stowed away somewhere. I think I have it in my office right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you never know.
Yeah.
Or, I was going to say you'll never see, but
okay. Well, Denise, do you have any closing comments or questions?
Looking back, is there something you regret?
Nah, I'm not big.
No, there's no point. There's no point to regret. Like I was saying earlier, you go forward, don't look back.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think everybody in bands makes stupid decisions that they regret. I think, it's part of growing as a musician, especially like us starting, you start pretty young at it. I mean, you're going to do stupid things and make stupid decisions. You just hope that you kind of learn from it, kind of thing.
I mean, you take 4 guys from a tiny little island, from a really small town, and you send them to the US on a tour with alcohol. I mean, or Germany.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? I mean, there will be regrets.
No bad decisions made.
None whatsoever.
Cool.
Anything else, Denise?
No.
Okay. I have one last question. I was just thinking, was just for all you guys, what was your experience first time coming to the US from Sweden or from touring Europe? Because I mean, I know from my experience with touring with first time European bands, they always get culture shock on how the hospitality sucks, and just the culture of the US is just different for touring bands and stuff like that. Just in general, or just if you have some fun stories. I think I remember Dismember coming with what Suffocation was a first tour, and then Grave. Well, I don't remember the first tour. Oh, was it with Massacre? I think, right? It was.
Massacre, yeah.
Yeah, and then Unleashed. Was yours the Cannibal tour? I think Cannibal and
No, Morbid Angel and Entombed was the
it was
first.
Morbid Angel and Tomb. Oh, that was a massive. Holy crap!
Yeah,
That was a legendary freaking tour. Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta say something about that. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's a fantastic tour, of course. but yeah, I mean, for us it was great because we also had another Swedish band on the bill, which was of course nice as well because we could do all these failures together or whatever. But I mean, yeah, as far as you were saying, the hospitality and stuff you're used to in Europe. I mean, even on a low level, you're used to, you get deli trays, you get maybe showers and nice dressing rooms and stuff like this on a European tour, even on smaller clubs or whatever. But in the States, it's nothing. Like we were surprised. It's like there's no showers. Like if you're lucky, you can rent a hotel room like once a week for your budget and have a shower, and there's no food. Like, you were starving basically because if you're the opening band as well, it's like, you're not getting money, you're not getting shit. So it's the rough times. You're dirty and hungry most of the time and drunk, but that's there was plenty of beer, but no food. So, but it's still great times we had. It's super fun. It was a lot of fun going. I mean, it was memories for life or non-memories, depending how you look at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That tour was a super big deal. That tour I mean, everybody was looking forward to that with Morbid Angel, Unleashed, and Tomb. That was a really stepped up show. I remember seeing that show at the Marquee in New York City, and that was just it was just amazing. Everybody was on fire at that show. That was killer.
Yeah, that was good times for sure.
Yeah. So, what about you guys, Fred or?
Well, first time I came to the US, the first person I met was you actually, and I had a rough. I don't know if you remember this, but I was gonna go to Relapse and do some, phone interview.
Fuck yeah.
You were taking me there. I was watching you guys rehearse and all that. But as I got off the plane, first time in the US, the border control just took me into a room, had me stripped, and they had a dog in my face and everything. I was terrified. Like, whoa, is this how it is going to America? I was like semi-drunk too, free drinks on the plane by myself in the back row, smoking a cigarette. Everything was high life. And then they just busted me as soon as I got off the plane. I was like, what the hell? You guys have been standing there waiting for me forever. Like, what happened to you, dude? I was like, well, I got busted for no reason.
Yeah, that's really funny. I totally forgot about that, but I do remember because back then I was so close with Matt and Bill at Relapse that they would ask me for rides, because bands usually fly into New York before going to see them over. Was it Millersville, PA, or wherever they were at the time? But I totally. Wow, it's so awesome that you even brought that up because I totally forgot about that. But yeah, I remember picking you up at the airport. Fuck yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Well, hopefully, hopefully after that you had a good time after you got, the third degree from our customs.
No, I had a great time. Saw you guys rehearse and we were pretty drunk that night.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. As far as like the Suffocation tour and stuff like that, how was that experience for you?
I mean, it was fun. It was 10 weeks, I think, in a van. It was us and Vader.
10 weeks.
Yeah, 10 weeks, 13 people in an 11-person van with a U-Haul, flat tire for the first show, going from Miami to Tampa, gonna open up for Dayside, and we blow a tire, but we get there on time, super hot. We're not used to the humidity. We're crushed after that. but it was great, and then Suffocation on the second leg of the tour. It was a long one, but it was really fun. And we did, most part of the US, Mexico City, and some cities in Canada too. So it was a long haul, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a great tour. I've seen you in the New York City too. I don't remember the name of the venue. It was one that wasn't around for too long, but I remember it was a really killer show. Um, okay, that's cool. Well, what about Jonas? You did that. I mean, doing the tour with Massacre, that's a super big deal. Especially, I'm sure you guys were probably like, "Holy crap, get the tour with Massacre!" I mean,
that was the the leprosy lineup. So
yeah.
So dude, that was awesome. No, we were huge fans, and that tour started really bad for me because I missed the flight. So I had to talk my way at the counter to get me on a flight an hour later. So I actually came over, and when I stood there, I was like, okay, now I got to find my band. So so it started bad, and we got drunk at the airport because we were so happy to find each other again. And we came down to Fort Lauderdale. That was the first show. And there we met a tour manager, Terry DeWall. He was a bouncer at the Whiskey.
Okay.
So that was his first tour, and he was really big. And he took us to a club, Bottom South, and that was weird. I mean, we're from Sweden, and from a small town, and that was weird. So we met some girls and hang out with them, and the day after we played our first show with Massacre in Fort Lauderdale, and there were so many skinheads on that show, and they beat up the girls that we were with. So they came with black eyes and everything. That was so weird. And driving through Texas, and they said, "You guys at the gas station." We stopped with our RV at the gas station. They said, "You guys, you better stay in the RV the whole night." And we were, "Why?" "Well, the police gonna take you for prostitutes, so you stay in your RV because of the long hair and so on." And we came to Los Angeles, and that was amazing, and that was awesome. Met so many people. All the other bands were at the shows. I think the guys from Autopsy, all the other bands were there. And to top it off, I think we had it last week. We went to New York, stayed with Paula Hogan, and we got to watch SOD at the SOD show in 91 or 92, was it?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So we did one show, I think, with Nuclear Assault and a lot of other bands. And also the week after there was the SOD show. So that was amazing experience, the whole experience, and people so friendly and such a good time. Such a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I seen that tour in Staten Island. I can't remember the name of that club now that used to be in Staten Island. But it was great. I was super.
Was that one of the last shows, or?
I don't remember where it was on the tour. Yeah. Probably if you ended in like New York area, because But
I think we did a show with. Did we do a show with Brutal Truth at the end?
I don't
mix up some of the. I think we did.
Yeah, sure. I can't necessarily remember, but I remember just watching it. And for me, it was. I mean, I really wanted to see you guys, and just to see Massacre and you guys on the same bill was just,
Yeah. Well, was that the show when Jürgen smashed his guitar? The last show he smashed his guitar, and after the show we went out to the audience and asked for the pieces back.
No, I don't think I was there at that one. I don't think so. I think I hopefully I would have remembered that for sure. But that's cool. Well, I want to thank all you guys for joining me. It was totally cool, and it was a fun time talking about the old school scene. And I want to thank all of our guests, Denise and Albert, for coming into being part of the conversation, and just thank you very much. And why don't you take us out, Steve?
Yeah, thanks for coming in, everyone, and please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and check out the store, and please check out Decibel Magazine. I just got it in the mail yesterday. I'm a subscriber, Albert, and I love getting it, and we used to sell it in the store, but I haven't lately. But thanks, and nice to meet you, Denise, and nice to meet you, Jonas, and Anders, and Fred, and tune in next. We've got some more great shows coming up, so hopefully we can have some of you guys back eventually.
Would love to. It was a great time. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cheers all.
Everything is good.